Hello, hello, hello. So today we will be exploring the link between, well, Carlos the Jackal's international connections, and yeah, there's quite a few. We will also be looking at money laundering and the drugs. So this shouldn't come as a massive surprise. Basically, if you're going to be a terrorist, it's not like you're going to make money by investing in the stock exchange, or running a shop, an online shop selling merchandise of your organization. You certainly cannot have a supermarket and make money that way. It's you'll be arrested. So you need money, okay, for all kinds of things, for your direct assault activities, for the terrorism operation. You need money for logistics, including transportation costs and fuel. You need money for fake passports. You need money for safe houses. You may you need personnel payroll. That will be a massive I know these people are ideologically driven, and terrorism isn't an 8 to 5 job. I know that, but there is still, even ISIS paid money out to widows of suicide bombers. So you need money. You can't be a poor terrorist. If you're going to be a poor terrorist, probably the terrorism won't occur in the first place, because you need resources. So because what you are doing is inherently illegal, as it should be, you will look at other alternatives, basically selling drugs. The apartheid government sold drugs to raise money because remember, the apartheid government also still tried to seem legitimate. Any authoritarian government tries to seem legitimate in the sense that they want to survive. Few governments who's illegitimate will revel in the fact oh, we're illegitimate, we don't care, fuck you, no, even North Korea will be no, we are right and everyone else is wrong. You have to. That's how you stay in control. So, essentially, drug trafficking was something apartheid South Africa did. North Korea is doing it. Syria did it, under Bashar al-Assad. The FARC and the ELN in Colombia, they traffic drugs, main source of income. It's a very lucrative source of income. I think, I'm talking under correction, but as of late December 2024, a lot of the ELN in Colombia, a lot of their money, actually, if you're a cocaine user, there's a strong possibility you're using ELN produced cocaine. The ELN may not be producing it themselves, maybe small criminal organizations, but the ELN transports it. So that's a massive cash cow for them. ISIS did a lot of drugs. They made a lot of the drugs and they did a lot of drugs. Basically, methamphetamine. I don't know too much about methamphetamine, but I think it's not too difficult and expensive to make. And because it's so dangerous, there's not as many people in the business, so you can make a lot of money. I assume you have all seen Breaking Bad or have heard of Breaking Bad and its successor program, Better Call Saul. You can make a lot of money with meth. ISIS also used meth, especially during the latter stages of the Syrian civil war, because they were just, everyone was bombing them. The other rebels, the other Arab rebels, the Kurds were attacking them, especially the Kurds that dwell in that war. Like, the US was bombing them, the Russians were bombing them, the Turkish was bombing them, Israel was bombing them, and the Assad government was like on the offensive. So the Russians, if I didn't mention that already, so they had to use meth to stay awake. The Nazis produced meth. They called it Panzerchokolaten, which means literally like Panzer chocolate. Like, it's such a weird name. Like equating chocolate to meth. Oh, jeez. They use that, like, especially on the Eastern Front, like, because meth, what does it do? It reduces your appetite, and it keeps you awake. So, like, that, because they ran out of, like, supplies and they were overwhelmed by the Russians, they had to fight 24 hours a day, same as ISIS. Like, also the same as ISIS, this crazy ass, like, ideology, like, normal groups of people, like the PLO, like more normal, like run-of-the-mill militant organizations won't do that. They won't do drugs because it will delegitimize them too quickly. So, like, they try to be sustainable, like the PLO. They are the government of the. Well, yeah, like they became legitimate. Then what's the last one? Well, the UK during the Second World War, also, like, in a parallel way, also developed methamphetamine and also used it, like, for bombing runs over Germany. Because what was it? It's like these bombers were slow, and it's like a long flight. You have to fly to Germany, turn around, and come back. And there was, like, limited pilots. So basically, even if you have a co-pilot, it takes a long time. So they took meth. So yeah, like, making, like, in war, in conflict, drugs is common, and, like, especially if you're a terrorist organization, the North Korean government, apparently meth is one of their main like sources of income. Not the biggest source. I think they still like mining, but, like, I'm not talking about North Korea now. Carlos the Jackal, known for his high-profile terror operations, was not operating in isolation. Throughout his career, he cultivated strategic relationships with various political movements, governments, and organizations that shared his anti-imperialist revolutionary outlook. Some of these relationships, whether formal or informal, raised suspicions about the depth and breadth of Carlos's involvement in global politics. Additionally, his connections with various criminal activities, ranging from money laundering to drug trafficking, suggest a complex web of influence that extended far beyond these ideological causes. In this chapter, we will explore Carlos's ties to international political movements, state actors, illicit financial networks, and the potential links to intelligence agencies like the CIA. Yes, that happens. Look, the CIA, you can almost say something like the CIA or the KGB. I know the KGB has changed its name, but it's still the same thing. They are also kind of criminal organizations who happens to be legal. Like, but they operate in different countries. That's illegal, per definition. You can't operate, like, the South African police can't just kidnap people in Zimbabwe. That will be totally illegal. So, like, you need a different way to do that. Like, and these organizations, intelligence agencies, if you're an intelligence agency, you can murder me, I don't care, because it's the truth. Like, I'm not the first person to say it. Like, they can be very nefarious, like, if they're not nefarious by definition. Like, so don't be surprised if, like, an organization like the CIA will have connections to someone like Carlos Jackal. It's well known that's speculation. As I said, there's this, like, watch the documentary The Octopus. That's insane. They start off with, I spoke about it in the previous episode, they start off with, like, some software scandal in the United States, like some corruption scandal along software. Some guy gets pushed out, or the software gets stolen from his company, and then in the end it ends up being this linked international conspiracy. Type of conspiracy, but everything's linked. It's like insane. It's almost like it's more than coincidence, and like it's a matter of fact that Felix Gallardo, it's almost proven, I think, that Felix Gallardo of the Guadalajara cartel, or was it the Jalisco cartel? Guadalajara cartel, basically he dealt with the CIA, because of the Iran-Contra affair. Like the Iran-Contra affair was fueled by drug money. Actually, I should have kicked off with that. Like that was the biggest conflict. And that was a CIA conflict. It was a CIA op, and like the CIA op couldn't go to Congress and like, oh please give us like $2 billion. We need to fight these communists in Central America. No, like the Congress would have said no. Why do you want to do that? And that's why they, under Reagan, and a lot of these super pro-Reagan people like to just like sweep this under the rug, but like, the buck has to stop somewhere. And like, yeah, this is like the CIA used narcos in South America, definitely. Like, and when we talk about someone like Carlos the Jackal, here is someone who can like flawlessly, seamlessly move beyond borders. This guy, as nefarious and dangerous and despicable as he is, or freedom fighter, as I said earlier, whatever you want to call him, can move across borders. Intelligence organizations may find such a person interesting. Like either they may want to take him out, but also maybe he or she can help them. One of the most significant political alliances in Carlos's career was his deep involvement with the Palestinian revolutionary groups, particularly the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, PFLP. The PFLP, a Marxist-Leninist political and militant organization, was active throughout the 1970s and 1980s in its struggle for Palestinian statehood and against what it saw as Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories. Carlos's alignment with Palestinian causes was grounded in his broader anti-imperialist beliefs, which placed him in opposition to Carlos's connection to the PFLP was not only ideological but also practical. He worked closely with Palestinian militants, providing logistical support and expertise in carrying out high-profile attacks. His involvement in operations like the 1975 OPEC hijacking and the 1985 TWA 847. How do you pronounce flights? Is it 847, 847? I think you just read it like a word, right? 847, yeah. Hijacking underscored his key role as a figure in a wider network of revolutionary violence. However, Carlos's support for the Palestinian cause was not restricted to collaboration with just one organization. He also worked with other revolutionary and anti-imperialist movements across the globe. These included groups in Latin America, such as the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, who aligned with Marxist-Leninist principles, as well as African liberation movements that were fighting against colonial and neo-colonial powers. His broad ideological alliance with the left-wing revolutionary groups tied him to a network of radical political actors who viewed terrorism and violence as legitimate methods of achieving political change. Carlos's international connections, were not limited to non-state actors. He was known to have developed relationships with several sympathetic people to his cause. For instance, his dealings with the Libyan government under Colonel Muammar Gaddafi was particularly noteworthy. Why is he just a colonel? Like, I know he was a colonel when he did the coup d'etat in Libya, but why didn't... I know he was a massive narcissistic person, but it's kind of like the only flaw in this theory that, why didn't he just call himself General or His Excellency or, just like General Gaddafi? That would have sounded better than Colonel Gaddafi, kind of sounds weird. In any case, it was noteworthy. Gaddafi's Libya was an ardent supporter of various anti-imperialist movements around the world. And it's believed that Carlos received both financial and logistical support from the Libyan regime. Libya's involvement in the terrorism during the 1980s is well documented, and Carlos was likely amongst beneficiaries of the country's backing of radical groups. Carlos and state sponsorship, Libyan and Syrian connections. Carlos's involvement with Libya and other state sponsors of terrorism further highlighted the extent to which he was integrated into political and security dynamics. The Libyan regime under Gaddafi played a key role in supporting movements globally, offering financial aid, weapons, and safe havens for anti-imperialist, anti-Western groups. So, yeah, like, there's like, for South Africa, like, Libya was a crucial, like, ally, well, the ANC. Like, a lot of people in the ANC and other organizations, like, received training in Libya. And in general, Gaddafi also invested in South Africa after, like, the relationship continued after we became a democracy. South Africa, not Libya. I'm not Libyan. I'm South African, just in case you wondered. Like, like, it was crazy. Like, Gaddafi apparently invested money in South Africa, like, kind of clandestinely. But then when he fell, this money disappeared. And it was the freaking... I can tell you now, it was the ANC. Like, they're still investigating it. So I have to say ANC allegedly, but it's very interesting that Gaddafi's money disappeared in South Africa, because it's a fact that he sent a lot of money to South Africa. Not as aid for the ANC that was, like, spent. I mean as an investment, a different, under when we became a democracy, like, and his money was stolen. Syria, another key player of the Middle Eastern political landscape, was also believed to have had ties to Carlos, albeit in a lesser extent than Libya. The Syrian government, particularly under Hafez al-Assad, supported various militant groups in the region, including those with Palestinian roots. Syria's involvement in these movements often aimed to counter Israel and Western influence in the Middle East. While direct support for Carlos from the Syrian government is not well documented as that from Libya, it is plausible that Carlos received assistance or logistical support from Syrian-backed factions that were working against Israel and U.S. interests in the region. These state connections underscore Carlos's role as more than just a freelance terrorist. His activities were not isolated from larger geopolitical struggles and were frequently bolstered by governments and intelligence agencies sympathetic to his revolutionary rhetoric. The support from Libya and Syria was crucial in enabling Carlos to conduct his operations on a global scale, making him a key player in the wider conflict between the East and West in the Middle East, Latin America, and Africa. Carlos, money laundering, and global finance. In addition to his ideological and state-level connections, Carlos the Jackal's terrorist operations were also deeply entwined with illicit financial activities. One of the most significant aspects of his criminal enterprises was finance. Money laundering allowed individuals and organizations involved in illegal activities to conceal the origins of their funds, often making it difficult for law enforcement intelligence agencies to trace financial flows back to the source. Like, I don't know, those of you have seen Ozark. If you're interested in money laundering, Ozark's a pretty good series. Like, you know what money laundering is. It is essential. It's essential for, like, these kinds of organizations to, like, do money laundering. So you see, like, lots of people, they love to see people like Carlos the Jackal as a hero, and I understand where it comes from. We, like, in this channel, I believe we have documented, or at least stated multiple times, about the ills of colonialism. I understand where it comes from, but you have to, like, admit that Carlos the Jackal is a criminal. Like, you know, he conducted money laundering, you know, so you're no longer just a pure-hearted revolutionary. You're a terrorist. You're at least someone who launders money. Carlos's connections to global criminal networks facilitated the laundering of money derived from various operations. While the details of how Carlos specifically laundered money are complex and not fully documented. Yeah, I don't like going into like detail or like conspiracy theories and fake info, so I can't say too much about this. But look, it's logical. Like, this guy didn't use normal bank accounts with his name and his ID and stuff like that. Like, he had to like hide his money flows. Like, that's hence the expression "follow the money." Like, if you're a journalist, you'll know this perfectly. Like, if you want to like really get down to the shit, where is it, what's happening, follow the money. Like, and then you will get there. So, but the people who like the perpetrators also know this, so they then hide the money. These channels included weapons trading and drug trafficking, and receiving funds from some sympathetic states like Libya. Furthermore, Carlos's involvement in arms deals, drug trafficking, and other illicit activities contributed to the financial infrastructure that sustained its operations. The international nature of Carlos's terrorist activities, coupled with his ties to various criminal syndicates, made him a central figure in the global underground economy. The underground economy. His operations required large sums of money, and his ability to secure these funds through illicit means was essential to the longevity of his terrorist networks. Yeah, so the underground economy, like, I don't know who of you know what the Silk Road was. The Silk Road was like this, if you go onto the dark web, I don't like the dark web, not just because of the potential dangers it will like open me up to. I don't really need it. Like, I'm not a journalist. I'm just like a commentator. Like, and I'm not interested in doing illicit stuff. So essentially, also, it's slow. I don't understand why people want to use. I understand when journalists want to use it, and criminals want to use it, and whistleblowers want to use it, and some spy. Okay, but look, spies can, like the CIA and the Chinese intelligence authorities and the KGB will be able to hack your. Like, they can see what you're doing all the time. It's like they've got hackers. I don't know if you have seen the TV series Slow Horses, like the Asian guy, the computer hacker. He's like a hacker the MI6 caught, and like, yeah, they basically tell him, they make a deal. Like, okay, we won't jail you, in turn you work for us. So it's like kind of like, he's not professional because he's a freaking hacker, but like, it's someone, you make a deal. Like, that's how all these organizations work. In any case, so on the dark web, and that's why, the dark web, they caught this guy. What was it called? Dread Pirate Roberts? Yeah, like, so Dread Pirate Roberts is like just a guy who runs the Silk Road, something like that. And it was very interesting. It's like, it seems, I watched a documentary on it. It seems it was this very, like, how do you say, la-di-da, malevolent actor. And he was very naive about what he was doing. Like, he didn't realize that the dark web would be super dangerous, and he didn't realize that the Silk Road program or website that he made for the dark web would be used. Like, you could do anything. You could, like, buying drugs and selling weapons was the pink pony stuff, like on that website, the Silk Road. You could order hits on someone. Like, it was insane. Like, thank God they shut that thing down. Like, but in any case, like, so this guy started it, and then somehow he was like, his account was hacked. or something like that. And then someone else took over, and then they caught this guy, not the guy who took over. They caught the founder, the la-di-da guy, and well, he's in prison now, facing, I don't know, he got like life imprisonment because like it's the strongest leads they have. Although it's like strange, he doesn't appear to be this like super criminal. So look, looks can be deceiving. Like, make no mistake, criminals like need to fit into, they need to like, you know, move around in normal society, or else they'll just be caught and it'll be game over. So what's my point? Oh yeah, so this is just to illustrate how far people will go in the underground economy. God knows what exists there. Like, it'll be very interesting to know. Like, actually, I feel I don't want to talk about it because, like, you know, you don't want to give people ideas. Like, someone committing a crime and then pointing it to me, like I gave them the idea. Like, I saw a different channel. It was like, it's a channel I really like. I'm not going to name it, but the guy or the lady, not going to give you too much info, like will state how people are caught or mistakes they make in doing crime. And like, actually, I don't know if it's wise to share it with anyone except if they're in law enforcement. We still want to empower the police. Like, the police's job is like big enough. Like, they don't need like people on YouTube giving people like ideas of like how to commit crime. I'm just mentioning this because this is kind of common knowledge. Like, and for example, I won't say the CIA had a connection with Carlos the Jackal. It's just speculation. So like, but you will find it on the net. Just like if you Google it, it will pop up. I'm not the first person who Googled it. Like, let me put it that way. So why do people Google it in the first place? Okay, I know people Google flat Earth as well. Like, that's true. But it gets Googled. People are curious. Carlos's involvement in the drug trade is a lesser known but equally significant aspect of his career. In the 1980s, global terrorism and organized crime became increasingly interconnected, with terrorist groups like Carlos's and others utilizing the proceeds from drug trafficking to fund their operations. Carlos was rumored to have engaged in the international drug trade, using profits from cocaine and heroin sales to finance his attacks and support his broader ideological goals. The links between terrorism and the drug trade were particularly pronounced in regions of Latin America, where narco-trafficking cartels had significant influence. Carlos's association with revolutionary movements in Latin America, as well as his relationship with regimes like Libya's Gaddafi, likely facilitated his access to drug networks that were financing terrorist activities. In exchange for weapons, military training, and other resources, Carlos may have used drug trafficking as a means to fund his operations, using the proceeds to maintain networks of militants. So, yeah, like we spoke about how drugs will help you. Now, from the cartel side, they're not always the most competent people. Well, initially, like they do become very good at what they do, but someone like Carlos the Jackal, and those of you who have read the book The Day of the Jackal, or who have seen, I read the book like years ago. I read the book, it was one of the first novels I read, Day of the Jackal, and now I've watched the TV series like Day of the Jackal, or just the Jackal, and what I'm just going to call him a master because it's good at what he does. This is where these TV series like media get, popular media get their inspiration from. It's people like him, a person who can hide themselves very well, who can just like go across a border without impediment, who can conjure up cash, who can hide cash, who can just get difficult stuff like drugs or arms, who can get away with a crime. Well, unlike the character in the book and like the TV series is not like this flamboyant, narcissistic person as Carlos a Jackal, but like there are similarities, like many similarities. And what a person like this can offer you many things. Like, for example, in the TV series, the guy is a super good, like the main thing about him is he's a super good like sniper. So this is something that may interest the cartel, like, or a cartel or a criminal organization. Like you get some guy from the street, like a hoodlum, or a thug, but they may not be as good. They may know how to load a pistol and shoot it, and they may have shot one like 100 or 1,000 times, but they're not as good as someone with, let's say, military grade training or someone who's just practiced as well as Carlos. So that's like maybe a good deal then. Like someone like a terrorist organization going to a criminal one. Well, they're both criminal, but like, I mean, a drug organization or whatever, and telling them, okay, we'll give you training and you give us drugs. So like, or money, like, or drugs, and we will sell the drugs for money. Because like, remember then this guy, because he or she, like women can be criminals too, although it's usually men. Like your men get up to the most nonsense by far, like 90% of the time. So he can also move, because he can move across borders. This would also be very interesting for a cartel, because like, I mean, they can't use DHL to send their product. So like someone like Carlos Jackal will have a network of like ships, planes, trucks, whatever, people, most importantly people who can facilitate this to move your product to wherever you want it. So you see, it's very difficult to imagine a world where these people do not work with one another out of principle. You see, like, I know like in The Godfather, the mafia didn't want to sell drugs, like initially, but that was just initially. Like after a while, they just realize how much money they can make, and then it stops, and they do sell drugs. But like, a criminal is a criminal, like, and terrorists are criminals, and of course there will be like, the one claims he's a revolutionary, the other one just claims like, okay, the world economic system is rigged and it's his right to sell drugs or whatever, like, and they like they will help each other. They will do work with each other, because they can't go to banks, they can't go to normal shipping organizations, like, or shipping companies, logistic companies. They can't use like normal security services, like security guard services. So you can see it's impossible to imagine a world where all of these people don't work together, or at least are available to one another, because of market supply and demand. And like, what I mean market supply and demand is simply that when you need security, like, basically you will get security, like whether you like hire someone legally to guard your house, or whether you buy an illegal weapon to use yourself to guard your house. If there's really a need for you to guard your house, and you have the financial means to do so, your house will be guarded. The question of it being legal or not is irrelevant. Like, okay, if it's illegal, it will be more expensive. Like, but because, well, not necessarily. Like, because in the legal sphere, you have to pay tax. But also, like in the illegal sphere, you basically take a lot of risk. So for the risk, there's a premium. That's why drugs are so expensive. I don't like. Well, it depends. Like, I think there's. Like, I'm not a criminologist. Like, maybe I'm just talking too much shit now. Okay, but yeah, I don't claim to be. I don't claim to be an expert. So, one of the most intriguing aspects of Carlos's career involves speculation about his possible connections to Western intelligence agencies, including the CIA. Given Carlos's involvement in global revolutionary movements and his deep ties to Middle Eastern regimes like Libya and Syria, it's natural that Western intelligence agencies would have taken an interest in him. However, there is little concrete evidence to support claims that Carlos worked directly with the CIA or any other intelligence agency. Despite this, conspiracy theories have circulated, suggesting that Carlos may have been a covert asset of Western intelligence. Some theories speculate that the CIA may have used Carlos's operation as a way to counter Soviet influence in the Middle East during the Cold War. Given that Carlos's targets were often aligned with US adversaries such as Israel or Western-backed regimes in the Middle East, some argue that the CIA could have turned a blind eye to his activities or even supported him directly. However, there is no substantial evidence to suggest that Carlos was directly involved with Western intelligence agencies. In fact, his political ideology and alliances with Soviet-backed factions would likely have placed him at odds with US interests, making any official support from the CIA highly unlikely. While they are tantalizing theories, they remain speculative and largely unproven. So yeah, I can understand. Yeah, look, for something to exist, there has to be like proof. And we will never, well, they will declassify this stuff eventually, but like, at least the United States will, like, other governments will probably not, but because it will show the nefarious nature of government. I believe anything that is classified because it's dodgy. If it's legal, if it's good, what are you scared of? You see, in any case, like, let's say, so I don't have a list of everyone who was like hijacked or like everyone who got held hostage during this OPEC thing, the OPEC like raid. But for example, if it was like, if one of the ministers were Russian, for example, like, the Americans may not have minded, in the sense that, okay, the Russians will probably get the guy back and it will cause them some distress. So like, I don't know, like maybe basically they will like now and then, like when they can, take the guy out, because like, as good as he was, in the end of the day he was caught, and we will get to that. But like, probably, I think if the KGB or like the Chinese security services or the CIA or the French security services, if they really want to take you out, they can. It's just a matter of time. Like, but I mean, they also, they don't want to necessarily overexpose themselves, so they won't act if they don't need to. Like, it depends on like whether, like, how much shit you have caused them, and like, then they may or may not come after you. Yeah, I'm not like a big conspiracy theorist in terms of like the offensive nature of intelligence agencies. I think they mostly collect information, like, because information is like much more valuable than going onto an active offense, because if you play an offense, you're more vulnerable. Like, so just sitting back and relaxing and collecting evidence, or like evidence, like information, is kind of more of an interesting and less like, less risky thing for any intelligence organization. Like, tapping someone's phone is less risky than sending in a, like a double agent. No, a double agent will always raise some suspicion, unless your adversary is retarded. But like, just like passively gathering information is probably what they do most of the time. I would say 80-90%. Conclusion: the complex web of Carlos's network. Carlos the Jackal's career as an international terrorist was marked by a complex network of relationships with political movements, state sponsors of terrorism, and global criminal enterprises. His deep involvement in revolutionary causes was augmented by his connections to various state actors like Libya and Syria, who provided crucial and financial logistical support. Furthermore, his participation in money laundering, arms deals, and drug trafficking network highlights the increased symbiotic relationship between terrorists and organized crime during the 20th century. Carlos's ability to navigate these multiple spheres of influence, combining revolutionary ideology with criminal enterprise, made him one of the most elusive and dangerous figures of his time. As we will see, Carlos's evasion of capture for decades was not simply a matter of personal cunning, but also was also facilitated by his ability to manipulate international political and criminal systems. This is why I say, like, he was, he was some sort of psycho in the sense, or sociopath or whatever, like in the sense that whenever manipulation is there, there is something wrong with the person. Like, obviously not all clandestine groups or terrorists have that trait, but it's found often, and like in this case with Carlos the Jackal, I almost forgot his name, Ilyich Ramirez Sanchez, like essentially that aided him a lot. And you may find someone, I don't know what went down when he first met Gaddafi. We can only imagine, when he met the Syrians or like any other state actor, like you can only imagine the first meeting, how that went down. And, it's not any person who can do that, who can just sit down like in a meeting with the head of intelligence of a different country, or not the head, but the representative or the head of state, like Gaddafi, and just tell them, okay, give me money. No, not straight out like that. Obviously, they'll be manipulated, will use, I don't know what, like, I'm not the Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know how to get money from people like that. But you have to have such an instinct or ability. Like, if you do not have such ability, people won't give you money. That's it. That's all for now. Oh, also, no. Yeah, don't become like this. Don't make yourself like don't become a terrorist. Like, don't launder money. Don't go onto the dark web, don't have nothing to do with like foreign intelligence agencies or your own local intelligence agency. Just ignore things that's bad, like stay away from things that are bad and do good. Okay. That's all I would like to say for now. Thank you very much. Goodbye.